Okay, Act 4, Scene 3. And here, all right, both Macduff and Malcolm must, in a way, gain each other's trust. Okay. Malcolm and Macduff. Okay, and really this is the function of this scene. The purpose of this scene is to establish, all right, Malcolm's fitness to basically rule as the King of Scotland, but also Malcolm isn't unsure who to trust. Remember, when his father is killed, he does not know who. He kind of suspects, but in a way, Macbeth has corrupted the kind of the royal lineage of Scotland. And so what we get here is a situation he does not know if he can trust Macduff. And this is the purpose. They are sounding each other out and they need to know that they can trust each other. And so it begins, okay? Let us seek some desolate shade, and there weep our sad bosoms empty. And I like the idea is you got this desolate shade and the sad bosoms, and it's talking about a sadness. It's quite and again, a sad tone. And then we get this idea of, okay, feelings. All right. Okay, we've got the idea of kind of how we say sadness. And then we get Macduff. Let us rather hold fast the mortal sword like good men. All right. So here we get the sense that Macduff is purely a man of action. All right, we don't need to cry. We need to get our sword and go back and get, okay, Macbeth. Here we do. All right. Stride down the fallen birthdom. Each new morn, new widows howl, new orphans cry, new sorrows strike heaven on the face, that it resounds as if it felt with Scotland and yelled out with a syllable of dolor. Okay, and we get that new widows, new orphans, new sorrows. We get that parallelism, that emphasis. This is anew, this is recurring, it's ongoing. And we get that sense that nothing is getting better. We need to do that, okay? That strike heaven on the face, all right? Now, in a way, what you have to understand, in a way, it's almost like to strike someone on the face it's a grave insult, okay? And back in the day, if you were a noble knight and someone struck you in the face, that's an insult. And it's an insult that must be avenged in a sense. And that was often the precursor to a duel, and a duel to the death often. So here we see Macbeth is striking God's face. He's insulting God. Okay, and that it resounds with the felt and yelled out like the syllable of dolor. Dolor is sadness, okay, the way of suffering. Okay, and we get this idea, all right, it possibly alludes to the idea of the Via Dolorosa, which was known as the way of suffering. It's the way that Christ carried his cross through Jerusalem in order to be crucified at Golgotha, which is the place of the skull. Okay, now Malcolm speaks. What I believe, I'll will. What know I believe, and what I can redress, I shall find the time to friend. I will what ye have spoke, it may be so perchance this tyrant, who solely and blisters our tongues, has once thought honest. You have loved him well. He hath not touched you yet. I am young, but something you may deserve of him through me, and wisdom to offer up weak, poor, innocent lamb to appease an angry God. And then Malcolm just gets straight to it. Okay, listen, mate. Okay, he was honest once, and you have loved him well. I remember a time when you were good friends. Okay, and he hath not touched you yet. So you're okay. So why are you here? You are not, okay, in the firing line. Now, here we have what's known as dramatic irony, all right? We already know that Macbeth has basically surprised Macduff's castle, killed his wife and killed his children. So in a way, we understand that Macduff has been, and there's some dramatic irony there, okay, that the audience would not have gone unnoticed. All right. There, I am young, but something you may deserve of him through me, and wisdom to offer up a weak, poor, innocent lamb to appease an angry God. And this angry God, I want you to look at the G. It's the lower case. All right, it's not the case, the G, the big G, okay, which is the God. This is a God. All right. And we get the sense that the innocent lamb he's going to offer up is Malcolm. So Wayne Malcolm's saying, you know what? When you come down here, perhaps you're actually planning to get me to go back so that you can offer me as a sacrificial lamb in order to appease Macbeth. Yeah. And remember, an angry God. And it kind of harks of something wicked this way comes. This way comes, okay? By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this one comes. And Macduff in true form, he's just straight to the point. I'm not treacherous. But Malcolm says, but Macbeth is. A good and virtuous nature may recoil in an imperial charge. But I shall crave your pardon. That which you are, my thoughts cannot transpose. Angels are bright still, though the brightest fell. And this is really interesting here. So we get this idea of the brightest fell. Angels are bright, okay? When we talk about Lucifer, now, who was Lucifer? Lucifer was, okay, God's archangel, but he was also general of God's armies, which were the angels, okay? So Lucifer's a general. Who else was a general that we know? Macbeth. And so we get this juxtaposition between Macbeth and Lucifer. And what's interesting about that is Lucifer became debased. What was it that debased him? His own, okay, his own arrogance, but also his own ambition. Okay, so again, through ambition, he becomes, okay, hold on, there we go. Through ambition, he becomes debased. He becomes Satan, okay? Macbeth, again, a general, okay, and he becomes debased. Okay, and then he becomes evil. All right, and what is it that does that? His ambition, his vaulting ambition. And so we get that lovely juxtaposition between the character of Macbeth and Satan, the light bearer, Lucifer, now Satan. Macbeth, now something that's not even considered a man. Okay, so we get that lovely thing there. Well, all things foul would wear the brows of grace, yet grace must still look so. And it's again, it's that equivocation of what appears to be good is maybe not so good. And then Macduff, I've lost my hopes. Perchance, even there where I find my doubts, why in that rawness left you, wife? Those precious motives whose strong knots of love without leave taking. So why did you just clear off and leave your wife and kids back in Scotland? Why did you not bring them here? All right. I pray, let not my jealousies be your dishonors, but mine own safeties you may be rightly just, whatever I still think. And he's signing him out. Can I trust you? I'm not sure I can. You're a man that left his wife and family. All right. Now, remember, if we think about the idea of Macduff, well, Macduff in a way is a knight, all right? And this is the medieval times. and he would have adhered to the knightly code, which is you protect women and children, yeah, not kill them. So it doesn't enter his sphere of reference or thought that someone would actually come and kill someone else's wife and children, and especially not the king. It's not within his frame of reference. And so he doesn't really consider them to be at risk. He understands himself is at risk. His beef is with Macbeth, but he doesn't realize that Macbeth will kill his family in order to, how we say, get back at him. And then Macduff, we hear kind of, bleed, bleed, poor country. Great tyranny, lad, thy base is sure, for goodness dares not check thee. Where thy wrongs, the title is a feud. Fare thee well, lord. I would not be the villain that thou thinkst, for I'll hold space in the tyrant's grasp, and the rich east to boot. Okay, talks about the east. Remember, kind of trade back in those days with the east, the Silk Road, all that kind of stuff. So he would have been riches. So what he says, I'm not interested in, he's not interested in power or riches. In power or riches. Okay, he's not interested in those things. He loves Scotland, her country. Oh, and still Malcolm's not convinced yet. He needs to kind of, you know, do a few soundings. Again, he's educated. He's smart. He's no dummy. Be not offended. I speak not as absolute fear of you. I think our country sinks beneath the yoke. It weeps, it bleeds, and we get all that sort of beautiful semantic field of kind of burdensome kind of words and things that are kind of quite, you know, they kick of distasteful kind of, you know, bleed. We've got wounds again. Is added to our wounds. I think withal there should be hands lifted up in my right. And here from gracious England, I have offer of goodly thousand. So England has already offered goodly thousand of good, honest troops who will come and fight on my behalf. But for all this, when I shall tread upon the tyrant's head, or wear it on my sword, yet my poor country shall have more vices than it had before. Hold on a second. So we get a little bit of a switch here. This is interesting. Shall my vices than it had before, more suffer in more sundry ways than ever by him that shall succeed. And this idea of the decapitation, he's going to tread in the tyrant's head. Got a nice piece of alliteration there, but also a word on my sword. And remember, when you cut off the head of something, it's literal and figurative. Okay, so we get the literal, okay, and the figurative decapitation. And Macduff's kind of like, well, he's kind of incredulous, really. What should it be? It is myself, I mean, in whom I know all the particulars of vice so grafted that when you shall be open black Macbeth, and I like that kind of, you know, will seem as pure as snow. We get that lovely juxtaposition, okay, white, dark, and the poor did esteem him as a lamb, being compared with my confineless harms. There's no end to the things that I will do.